Greetings and welcome to this all new Trapcode TAO session, and today we're gonna recreate this looping candy blob thing, and I'd like to give the credits to Chad Ashley from GreyscaleGorilla. He's the one who created this using Cinema 4D, and if you don't know them, GreyscaleGorilla, an excellent resource website for Cinema 4D tutorials, nice products like light kits and stuff like that, and of course it's a great source of inspiration. They have daily renders, and when I look at this one in particular, I thought, hey, this is something that we can easily, of course we won't have this photorealistic result, but this is something that we can surely recreate with Trapcode TAO. And I didn't listen to this tutorial, so if you want to learn how to create that with Cinema 4D, I'll post the link down below. But I just wanted to see if I was able to recreate this thing with Trapcode TAO, and let me show you how I did it. So let me open up After Effects and start off by creating a new solid. I'm gonna call it Tao, and it's going to be a square composition, and inside of that I'm going to create a solid, call it Tao, and I'm going to apply Trapcode TAO to that. So by default we have that, and another reason also why I think it's an interesting tutorial is because in this one we're gonna use the automatically generated path, something that we don't often do. We're not even gonna create a Tao light to generate any geometry. We're gonna use that because it's a ring, so we can use this. Let's see how we're gonna set this up. So first let's create ourselves a nice texture. So let's create a new solid, and let's call this text, and let's keep it the same size as our composition. And right away we're gonna pre-comp this, so Control Shift C. I'm gonna leave all the attributes here. So right in there we're gonna double click to get inside, and right on here what we can do as an easy way to create some stripes, colored stripes, we can apply a ramp, and then on top of that we can apply a colorama effect. It will apply a color pattern based on the black to white gradient that we have. So what we want to do is basically generate more triangles here and make ourselves a nice pattern. So let's make a darker stripes here, and let's make a white one right after that, and let's keep it white for a little while, then have a red one. So basically you can pick up some that already has several here. You can increase the amount of repetitions here to get more. This is a nice way to make sure that you always have something that's you have the same color here on top and on the bottom here automatically with this. So I'm not gonna bother with it, and I created a preset that we can use, so I'm gonna put this link to this down in the description below. And so that's a little candy preset. So it's gonna simply apply both these effects. So let's delete that, and let's drag this preset onto the solid here, and basically it's the same thing, but in this one I've created this kind of a color pattern here to have these nice stripes here. So that's something that we can use for a texture, simply as something that's generated with the native After Effects stuff. So we have it procedural here, and this is also in the preset. So if we hit U, there's going to be keyframes here, so one at frame 0 and another one at frame 90, and basically it comes with the preset. It's gonna loop it, and it's basically just the face shift. So let's remove that, and let's see what's happening here. Basically this is just one keyframe here at 0 on frame 0, and for the duration of our loop, any duration that you want, in our case going to make it 90 frames, and simply animate this one whole revolution here. So that's going to make it loop around like so. So let's get back in our Tao composition, and we have our texture here. We don't need it to be active, because we're gonna go down there in the material and lighting, and no, we're gonna go in the textures right away. And right in here for the texture tab, we're gonna select our text comp 1. So by default, that's what we have. I'm gonna create a camera, Control Alt Shift C, and let's make it 50 millimeters by default. And let's quickly make a dolly here on which we can connect our camera to. So I'm gonna make it pink here, and let's connect the camera to that. And then, of course, make sure that it's 3D, and then we can rotate around here. So that's what we have by default applied onto our basic Tao ring here. So first thing we are going to do is add more segments to that, is add more sides to that. So we have enough that we have some kind of a donut here with our nice texture applied. So we can add more than that. And let's keep it low for the moment, because I want to show you we can already get in the rendering options here and make it smooth here. So it's going to cancel the polygon aspect of it without us without the need for having this really high. So if we bring this up, we're going to lose it, but it's going to be harder to calculate. We can simply get in here and make it smooth here, and also we can uncheck this break size here, and it's going to also make it smoother on the other side. So we can increase the amount of segments until it's smooth here, and the amount of size also, because we have some very thin lines in our texture, and if we want them to be entirely revealed here, you're gonna need a sufficient amount of size here, or unless the smaller ones are not gonna look great. So make sure you have approximately this amount. And next we're gonna get down to the twist Z, and this we're gonna increase the value. So to make sure that it connects right here, we're gonna need it to do one whole revolution as it goes around. So let's type down 360 degrees, and that's what we'll have now. A nice seamless texture, stripe texture applied, twisting around our ring here. So that's pretty nice. And this, you can make another whole revolution, so bring it up to 720 multiplied by 2, and it'll work. So you can have it twisted even more, and but make sure that it's always a multiple of 360 if you want it to be seamless. So perhaps let's try 360 multiplied by 10. So that's what we'll get. In our case, we'll keep it looping once around, I think, like he has. But the point is not to make it exactly similar. Let's just practice our Tao skills here. So that's what we have. Pretty cool. Next, we're gonna want to add a little bit of fractal displacement in there. So let's get here, and let's open up the fractal displacement tab, and let's start by increasing this number here. So what we get is something like that. So we wanna, it's perhaps a little bit too much waviness in here, so let's reduce the oct scale down to 0.8, so that'll make it a little bit smoother with the same numbers here, and also the this we can bring it down to half of the default value, and then we can reduce the frequency. So now we have something that's kind of distorted in that way, and you can make it any way you want there. So let's increase that a little bit, and let's decrease that. So perhaps that's pretty nice. And this is something that we can have animated. Now it's pretty cool, because if we go down to frame 89, let's hit N to close our work area. Since we've this is our last frame, I'm gonna hit Shift 3 to create a marker here, and then I'm gonna hit home to get back home at frame 0, and hit Shift 1, so then I can alternate between both here. And this fractal can be animated, so perhaps it'll be cool if this kind of motion happens. To make it loop, it's pretty easy. Let's create a keyframe at frame 0 here, and let's get to frame 90, and let's animate it for that amount, 940. You can put any number here, but let's try this one. And then let's open up the seamless loop tab here, and let's simply click on set end frame here. So that will automatically punch down this value here, and if we go back to frame 1 and frame 3, we've got some looping motion here. So our distortion is gonna be animated if that's what you want. That's an easy way of doing it. Let's make it even more increase, just to look at it. So that's what it does. Let's try to have it increased more, so it's gonna go faster for the wobbling. So that's pretty cool. Now this is a candy. It's, I don't know, it's a ring also. It's might be pretty small. One way to add a little bit more perspective on your object when you're creating them is to get in the camera settings, so Control Shift Y, and now we've created this at the default 50 millimeters, which is the same as having no camera at all. But let's try 24 millimeters, so that'll make it a little bit smaller. And then let's hit C until we get the zooming panning tool, and that'll make it like what's closer to us will seem bigger, and what's further in the distance will well, it'll increase the perspective, the feeling of perspective in our scene. So let's compare that. Let's grab a picture here, and let's undo back to what we had here. So this is with the perspective, and this is without. So maybe something in between. We can change here the angle. So let's try 35 millimeter here, and let's get further with our camera. Let's create a quick background, a gradient. So let's make a new solid. I'm gonna call it BG. Let's put it back here, and this kind of simple, I love this simple flat color gradient in the background. So let's use a simple ramp. I could put this in there, and let's grab some kind of a blue here, and let's grab the same like that, and let's make it a radial. And the first one, let's make it brighter, and let's grab that So let's bring this towards the middle, and let's make this one a little bit less saturated, maybe. Something like that. And then one thing that we can quickly do, make it invisible, our dolly. Let's get in the visibility, and let's make insert that. Let's give ourselves a little bit of an angle here. So now we're looking at it from the front. Let's rotate it a little bit like that, and let's actually increase our perspective here. And what was I about to do? Oh yeah, in the Tao, in the fog color, we can pick up the color here from the background there, and bring the fog start real close to the camera, so something around, and bring this down as well, so something around 3000, and let's bring this closer, and then this one. So what's in the back is going to be gently engulfed by the background color. So let's find something that looks not that bad. And since we're going up to there, we can reduce this amount. I'm not sure if that'll make it overall easier, quicker to render, but let's not take any chance. When there's something that we think might make it easier, let's just do it. So we have a nice fog here coming, giving us a little bit more depth to that. So we have our texture, we have our displacement in it. What else can we do? Well, maybe we don't want it to be that much in there, and let's reduce that. And if I reduce this, I made the mistake, so let me undo that. We have the same values here, so I'm going to reduce that on my second keyframe here. When we do that, we must not forget to click on this to make sure that this is the same as this, because if these numbers here, if they are different, let me undo there, we have it won't loop. If I go to marker number 1 and marker number 3, it's going to play out, it's not going to loop. So we don't want to make anything that breaks our loop. Let's keep the same numbers here. Alright, so here in this thing he has it like this, this part that gets smaller. How can we do that since we don't have any light in there? There's another way that we can do it. Let's get in our Tao offset. Let's open up this section here, and let's get down to the offset animation sequence. So the default is 10 seconds. So let's think of it this way. At frame 300, this will be the, let's make a new keyframe here, and let's call this end of OAS offset animated sequence. So Tao by default, it's going to use that duration to apply some transformations to your drawn path. So in our case, we want to affect the size. So let's create a keyframe here on frame 300. So that's the end of our path, and frame 1 here is the beginning of our path. So let's make another keyframe here, and let's get approximately close to the middle here, and let's make another one at 100 still, and I can copy this one and paste it here, Control C, Control V. Now all these 4 here are at 100. Get in the middle of these 2 here, and then we can decrease this. So it's gonna pinch it. You see up there, it's gonna, so this if we move it around, we decide where it is. So let's pinch it around here, and let's bring those keyframes here to make it more gradual here. And we can also gonna right click here, keyframe assistant, ease those keyframes here, and I'm gonna hit control click on this one in the middle, and we can get in the graph here and bring those like such to make it a little bit more gradual on the pinching there. So that gives us nice control on the pinching. So that's pretty cool. So that thing will keep on being pinched there. That's pretty cool. I think in his thing it has it moving around, or anyway, if we want this to move around, let's get back to our keyframe. This, instead of being stuck there, one easy way that we can do it is by animating our offset. So this it will affect our OAS. So let's create a keyframe at frame 0, and let's get on our last, so frame 90, and let's make it 100. And let's activate loop offset. So let's try to not get confused here. This is the end of OAS, but as we make it from frame 0 to 90, because that's the duration for our loop, it will make it move around. Our pinch will be animated along our path, so it'll move around like so. So that's pretty cool. It's another way of having it look more irregular here, and we can even have it increased in growth. Let's increase it a little bit there, and we can like copy those here. Oops, let's make sure we copy only that, and let's move it temporarily so we can just have the room to make them there, and then we can move those around. And on this one here, instead of we can pinch it on the other way to have a growth here. So depending on what kind of shape that you're aiming for. So that motion will simply loop around our thing there. So I would like our pinching to be more important here. So that's pretty cool. Now let's here it has some nice reflection to it. It's what makes it feel all candy and all like us. We don't have anything like that. It looks kind of flat. So let's give us a little bit more of an angle here, and let's move around like so. So let's get in the and I'm gonna try to keep it simple for the lighting. So let's get in material and lighting, and let's get in the image based lighting, and we're gonna use a built-in environment. So let's choose industrial room, and that'll make our reflection all exaggerated by default. So first thing we might want to do is reduce its trend. Let's see, we have to make sure that if we don't have the brake side activated, we might get something like that. So make sure that this is off. I don't think that we need a chamfer in this case. We can also leave it off. So we're trying to get the best result for our reflection here. So that's a little bit too extreme. by default doesn't look like much, but yet it's kind of it makes it look more reflective. Let's increase the diffusion strength, so we make it brighter again, and let's increase the Fresnel, so it's gonna make it, we're gonna keep our bright spots on, but it's gonna make it less reflective on the areas that are not facing the camera. So that's the kind of is going to help us. We can then bring this in a little bit maybe, and it's all about tweaking it right there, but I think that we can get a little bit of an idea of some candiness here, so that's pretty cool. Let's see without, and let's take a picture. So that's pretty nice, and we can use this to quickly change the light direction depending on what looks best in this situation. Maybe we can try that, and of course we can influence how much the environment is exposed in there. So already we're getting somewhere. It's pretty nice. Let's keep it up. So one other thing that we can do to add some kind of candiness texture is to create ourselves some specular map. So sometimes we have some kind of sugar coating on candies, and that can perhaps help it make it more realistic. So let's create ourselves a new composition, Control N, and we're gonna call this one spec, and let's make a new solid, and we're gonna simply apply a fractal noise. So let's see how we can keep it procedural. I'm gonna get in the transform, make it small, so perhaps something around 3, 4, and we only want, like, we're gonna bring the brightness down, and we want to have like dots like that, but we want it the other way around and not this other way around. We don't want to invert that, but let's add an invert effect there. So we want to have kind of all white but small dots to create some areas where the reflection is, where the specular is going to be less important. So let's see what we get if we bring this in now. Let's turn it off, and let's get in our Tao here, and right in the specular map here, I'm gonna select spec, and does it change anything? I don't know if you can notice it, but it will kind of bring in this detail in our texture here, and that's of course going to be corresponding to your lighting, and it's going to be distorted along with your texture. So that's something pretty cool. And another thing that we can do also is create a normal map from our texture map to have a little bit more bumping along those lines. So this is not approved scientifically, so I'm gonna show you some way to pull off a normal map in here with our texture. So I've made a composition by dragging the texture right on the icon here. It's made a new one, so let's call this one normal, and basically I want to keep the same everything I change in here to be reflected in this one, so I'm gonna keep it like that in my normal here. And first let's desaturate it, so let's make it grayscale by bringing a tint effect to it. And second step, well, a normal map like is kind of these colors. It's a kind of trick use in computer graphics to fake the light direction and extrusion and bumping, and it's not gonna work like with everything, but it can sometimes help. So it's not scientific, it's really unscientific. So I've created a preset for it. It's simply, once again, applying colorama. So let's get rid of that, and let's get in here, and I'm gonna normal preset. So basically it's gonna apply this color gradient to our texture after making it black and white, to hope that it's gonna get us this kind of an aspect like that, and it's not gonna work like but it's gonna bring us a little bit more details. Let's bring this normal here, and let's get in there, and normal map. So there. We kind of have, and let's make it like this is subtle. It's with it's gonna affect our reflections, and it's gonna also be animated along our lines. Let's get in the let's set that to density, and perhaps we're getting a better result with that. I don't know, depending on, you can experiment trying to get it, but what I'm trying to show you here, let's shut off our texture, so that will kind of bring us some detail in terms of bumping our stuff here, but it's not gonna be scientific. It's gonna, don't take this for granted here. So that's the text. So pretty cool. Now let's keep it 100, and let's increase the amount of segments. Sometimes this will need to have more, and let's get this back to smooth. Alright, so we're starting to get somewhere. Let's preview that. Alright, pretty cool. So let's make this 16, and let's switch that to linear. See if we can get best results, and no. But we do kind of get this candiness feel. It's not photorealistic, but it's kind of cool. Next, what can we do? We can enhance our lighting, so we're gonna mix the built-in lighting. Let's tune that back, so let's reduce that. Yeah. And let's create ourselves an ambient light. So Control Shift Alt L, and select ambient. I'm gonna make it kind of the color from here, the brightest color from our scene. I'm gonna click OK, and then I'm gonna tone it down, and I'm gonna also, now that we've done that, we're gonna be able to tone down the diffuse down to 80 something, and maybe drop the ambient as well. So depending on how much detail you want to keep from the diffusion of the environment or of your colored ambient light, and then we can make sure that include Tao Lumi light is activated, but let's verify what happens without. So this is our ambient light. Let's create another one, and let's call it Tao Lumi. Make it a point light, and let's try to create a hotspot with that. So let's bring it back towards the middle. Let's start bringing it at the center, and let's make sure that Tao Lumi is activated. So now we get a little bit more light details here, and this light we can make it some kind of a warm color. Perhaps gonna work best for us, and then we can play around with that. And depending on where we want it to hit, I'm gonna try to have some upper direction. And this other thing that you can do also to kind of simulate some shadows. On the other side we don't have that much of a shadow going on, but let's duplicate this light here, and again, it's not scientific. Be careful doing that. It might not always give you the best result, but I'm gonna bring this over here, and the intensity I'm gonna bring it in the negative. So if I bring this down, we can kind of darken some areas based on where that light is. So let's bring it towards us. There. And let's bring it around here. So placing it relatively to this other light can help a great deal in generating some some shadows that are that'll look great. And of course this is kind of inverted, so since we're in the negative, the more this color here is orange, the more our shadow will be will have a blue shade to it, and the more we make it blue, the more it'll have a warm color into it. So depending on, once again, what you want to achieve here, perhaps it's kind of nice here to have a kind of a pinkish color going from the bottom here, but making it pink won't have it result in this, but making it blue here, it's kind of gonna help us achieve this look. So I hope that was not too confusing. And then on top of that we can add an adjustment layer, and let's call this CC. And we can add a curve on top of all that just to boost the general contrasts here, and try to get something kind of looks cool. So something around that. And one last thing that we can do is have a look at our ambient occlusion. So how is it reacting to this? It's kind of good to do that as a last step. So let's shut it off entirely, so maybe we don't want any. And let's see, in this case we've got something that's pretty big, so we can increase the scale, and then let's increase the intensity so we can get some more shadows based on the contact with that. So let's just tweak down the lift to see where it's at. Let's turn down the scale now just to bring it in. So you can use either that or in the combination of the other trick for shadows. Sometimes it's a little bit grainy with the ambient occlusion, and sometimes you want to keep it real small, for instance, but depending on what you're looking for, it can enhance your looks or not, and try to be subtle with it. And one other thing that we can do, let's save this Candy Blob 3. Let's have nothing. Let's make sure that we don't have anything selected here, and let's pick up the pen tool, and we're gonna just create a simple light cast here, and let's make this a warm color. Let's try first something like that, and let's apply a fast blur to that, and let's set that to add, and oh, it kind of does look not that bad from that, so sometimes it's best to set it to screen and then make it blend more like so, depending on what you're after. Once again, we don't really need a vignette because we have already this, but one quick way to vignette that would be to add an adjustment layer, and let's quickly add some brightness and contrast, and simply tone that down maybe, or close to nothing. Set that to multiply, and let's select the ellipse, double click, invert that, and let's try to cancel it from the top. It's kind of just make it a little bit at the bottom here to increase the lighting effect, and perhaps it's best to decrease its opacity as well. So not very not a lot of that, and or not at all, depending on once again what you prefer. So that's pretty cool. Let's see what you can do using this technique with Trapcode TAO, and post your examples. I'd be curious to see what you come up with, and as always, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.